Yo, what's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Prison Break Raw. I'm your host, the one and only Big JD. Go ahead and give this channel a subscribe, share at least some messages or comments, hit that thumbs up button for the like, also hit that notification bell to be informed on all upcoming episodes. How does it sound now? Man, I've been having some serious audio problems over the last few episodes. Embarrassing. Don't like that. But the content was good and I didn't want to cut it out and start all over again. I figured that once I had some more free time, I'd be able to fix it up. So I busted out the Snowball. I got that going now. My other sound equipment, I'm going to have to figure out what's wrong with it, why it's jacking off like that. And got the camera up. Changed the light bulb. Because this paint in this room is like a kind of a weird yellow color. And if a certain kind of light bulb is in my light up there, it's going to make the whole room look yellow. So I changed that out. Fixed a few things. Now here we are with a little bit better sound. So the convict code, and can it be applied in the streets? That's the question. Now the convict code gets a lot of negative connotations if you think about it. Most people don't really understand it unless you've actually been inside. But for those of us that have actually lived by it for a long time, decade, 2 decades or longer, it makes a lot of sense the more you start to become aware of what's going on around you. For example, the convict code is a means of showing respect for the next man. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be another convict. When you're interacting with staff, it's always better to have a better, more mutual understanding or a level of respect as opposed to going to war with them. Now that's not always the case in every single place. But when you up on them higher yards, you up on them level 4 yards and level 3 yards in Cali prisons, it's the respect level goes up. The lower down the levels you go, the more disrespectful it gets from COs, from other cats on the yard, what have you. A lot of them just ain't knowing. A lot of people think and say they're a convict, but you're not necessarily a convict unless you have this certain level of etiquette, this way you carry yourself. And that's really what shows what you're really about. But when you get out of the prison system, can you apply this in the streets? And the answer to that question is yes, you can. Because there's a lot of things that we're going to go over them and how you can actually apply these things out here in the world. And for those of you that haven't done any time, you could pay attention to this because you could pick up on some of these gems and use them in your daily life. And you'll learn that you'll be a lot more effective in your communication and interactions with other people by using some of these skill sets that are designed by killers, robbers, dope dealers, gangbangers, all that. This convict code can be used for something positive. Now I'm not telling you that when you're working at your job or you're living in your community or something like that, to use the convict code to go handle your business by manufacturing a shank, bone crusher, and going to work on them. That's one aspect of when the convict code is crossed. Now that's straight soldier mode, warrior mode right there. The convict code is a means to prevent that from happening. Opening up a dialogue, opening up political diplomacy channels, in communicating with other cars or other disruptive groups or what have you, other races, other ethnicities. It's also a way to ensure that there is a mutual respect and understanding with the staff, because it's not always convict to convict. When you're up on those higher security yards, that's your home for many, many years. And why have a bad report with the correctional staff when you can have that mutual respect? And for the most part, when that happens and everything goes with the flow, they're not even concerned with what's really going on. But it's when somebody crosses that line is when they go crazy, because we all know it, we don't admit it, but we don't run shit in the prison system. Ain't no convict, inmate, anybody that is incarcerated runs those prisons. If they say they do, they're full of shit. The system runs it. The COs, the administration, the Department of Justice, the California Department of Corrections runs those prisons. And they will let you know just how much they run it when shit hits the fan. Real fast, you're going to find out who's really in charge when that goes down. But the convict code. So in an institutional setting, you know that you're limited in where you can go. It's a very small area. And you have a yard that may have 5 to 6 buildings on it in a 270 or 180 design. And there's 4 yards, A, B, C, and D. And then you have the E yard, the minimum yard, and a lot of these 270, 180 design newer prisons, as they're called. So the convict code has to be in place in order to keep that peace. There's a lot of things you just don't do. You don't do them when you're living in a cell with another man. You don't do them with anybody else that's around you. Number 1, don't walk into areas that you know you have no business being in. You just don't do it. You don't just plop your ass down at any table and stake a claim on it. Because all them tables that are out there in the yard belong to somebody. There's some car has control of that table, and them tables are taken very serious. Always be aware of your surroundings at all times. Always be aware of everything. Observe more than you actually speak on. Listen more, speak less. You got on them big mouths in there. Like I said, those are the ones that always wreck. Those are the ones that are always kicking off some drama. Those are the ones that are always the first ones to go on anything that happens. Don't be one of them. Eyes open, ears open, mouth shut. That's why they say you got 2 eyes and 2 ears for a reason. Use them more so than you use your mouth. Know which phones you're supposed to be on. Know which showers you're supposed to be in. Know where your TVs are at. Know where your people are at all times. General rules of etiquette and of respect for everybody else around you is you don't just walk up behind somebody. You don't cut in between 2 or 3 people as they're walking. These are common sense rules. Because all you're going to do is kick off some shit. Somebody's going to be having a bad day. They just got a Dear John letter. And you cut through them. You're probably going to get cut the fuck up. You're going to get all the way stabbed up if you do some shit like that. So don't do it. Just don't do it. If somebody or a couple of people are blocking the path in which direction you're trying to go around them. Go to the front of them. Acknowledge them. Look them in the eyes and say, "Excuse me, can I get through here?" And get through there. If you bump into somebody by accident, it doesn't matter if it's a light tap or if you plow right into them. Always turn around, look them in the eyes, and say, "Excuse me, my bad." Give them that respect because you're the one that fucked up and bumped into him. If you think that I ain't got to give this man no respect, that man may take your wind for not showing him that because you have no idea what he's about. So you just assume that everybody's a killer. That everybody's with that business. You give them all respect. I don't care what they look like. They could look weak as shit, man. Skinny, like 125 pounds soaking wet. You always give them that courtesy. Another big no-no, and especially in the CDC for those cats that love them Chinese chews. Now, them Chinese chews cost money. You got a cat that works in there that he's shining and polishing up them boots. I used to polish up boots all the time. I used to love to do it. It was therapy for me. And I would shine up all the homies' shoes. And I would shine up, when the Woods would come at me, I would shine up their shoes too for when they got visits. Everybody always had a pair of Chinese shoes, as we like to call them, held up in their cell. Step on one of those men's shoes and don't say nothing and find out what happens to you. You're going to get fucking beat all the way down. Something bad's going to happen to you. That man's probably going to, if he's in his feelings and he's like, "What's up?" and then you say something smart or you don't acknowledge it, it's going to kick off right then and there. Or that man may go to your people and your people are going to deal with you. They're going to boo-bop you real fast. So just be careful of where you're walking. It's always a good idea to basically know your balance of how you're scanning everything, how you're looking at everything. You're paying attention to everything. You're aware of everything that's going on, everything that's being said close by you, the mood, the tension if there's any tension. Always aware of it at every second of every day while you're out there outside of that cell. So you're not stepping on somebody's shoes when you're looking down, when you're looking up. You're paying attention to where you're at all times. Another one is when you're in the chow hall. You're sitting down. A lot of these chow halls are they're like an octagon table. There's 4 stools out there. A lot of these different spots, you don't control where you land. If all your people are in a straight line going through there to get their tray, and it just so happens you're at the back of the line and there may be another ethnicity right behind you, you may end up at the table with them. Or if you're at the front of the line, same thing. You may end up at that table with them. And when you're sitting there at that table, give them the same courtesy and respect that you would give your own people. Always maintain that. Keep your elbows off of the table. Don't chew with your mouth open. If you're going to talk, make sure that all your food is chewed up, or at least cover your mouth like this if you're going to talk to somebody. Don't be coughing and gagging, and don't blow your nose at a table. Never do that. Don't pick at your food or fling shit off your tray and onto the table. These things you just don't do. And if you're, like I said, if you're talking to somebody, talking across them, you're covering your mouth and all that. When you get up, if it ain't your people, if it's somebody else's people, excuse yourself with some courtesy. Some people like to do the little knock. Sometimes you could just say, "Excuse me, fellas," and get up and walk off. It's that simple. These little things will carry you a long ways. You get up in that cell, always remember that you're living in a small space with another man. Your bathroom, your kitchen, your shower, everything is in that cell with you. And when you're brushing your teeth, you're not spitting all that in the sink. You're spitting it in the toilet below you. It's just good manners, because nobody wants to wash their dishes or their hands or do whatever they have to do in that sink and all your backwash that comes up out of that drain. When the water goes down, your backwash is stuck in there in the P-trap in some cases. The water comes back up, it's all back in the drain. Sometimes it takes a little longer to drain depending on how old those pipes are. Spitting in the toilet. If you got a fart in the cell, you better plop your ass down on that seat and hit that button as many times as you can. If you got unlimited flushes, then you better keep pushing it. If you got limited flushes, which are on timer, you plop your ass on down there, just let it rip. One good time and then hit that flush button. Stick your ass so deep on there it's like a suction cup, that there ain't no air between you and the bowl of that toilet. And let that ass gas go. And don't get up until you know it's gone, because then you're gonna crop dust the whole cell. You're gonna piss somebody off that way. Don't gossip. Nobody likes the gossip on the tier. If you got something to say about another person, you better be ready to back it up at all times, because somebody's gonna call you on that shit. It's just the way it is. So now, how would you carry that on the streets? For me, going into the streets with all this was like a huge culture shock. Going out there, like, I open the door for somebody, they don't say thank you. When you in there, you open the door for somebody, they don't say thank you. They're going to remind you that person that held that door open for you is going to remember that. Out in here, out in the streets, open the door for somebody, they don't say thank you. Most of the time, that shit irks me, man. Kills me. Can't believe it. People bump into you all the time out here, they don't say thank you, or they don't say excuse me, sorry. People bumping into you out here all the time and they don't say excuse me, or somebody stepping on your shoes. I was in a hookah lounge not too long ago with a friend of mine, and this one cat, he just stepped on my shoes. As going through, he didn't say shit. Came back again, he stepped on my other shoe. I finally went up to him and I said, "Say, homie, you say excuse me, you stepped on my shoes twice. That shit ain't right, man, it's wrong." He's like, oh, my bad. And he probably really didn't even realize he did it, because people ain't taught these kind of things. They're not taught this kind of etiquette. Same thing. When you're out there and you're sitting at a table and you're eating with other people, communicate with them and don't talk and chew with your mouth open all like that, and keep your elbows off the table, man. These are good manners that'll carry you a long ways. If you have an issue with somebody at your job or wherever in the community or whatnot, open a dialogue with them. Get at them. Come at them like, say, hey, what's up with this or what's up with that? And, how can we resolve this issue to where there's no future conflicts or problems? It's called diplomacy. Carries you far with that as well. So these are simple things. Like, you looked at everything that I told you about on the inside. You could take all that same things out here. Like, you're not going to cut in front of in a line when you waiting to go to the yard or the chow hall when you out there, unless you cutting into the line with your people. But if it's a whole row of your people, you're not cutting in front of them. Or if it's your people, the only ones in line, and you cut in front of everybody like that to get to the line, you're not going to do that either. It just doesn't happen. You don't do it. So why would you do it out here? So the main things to follow out here in applying the convict code to the streets: don't cut in front of lines on people. Don't step on people's shoes. If somebody opens the door for you, acknowledge them and tell them thank you. If you bump into somebody, look them in the eyes and say, "Oh, excuse me." Always have courtesy. Always have respect for people. If you want to clown around and make jokes and be sarcastic with people that you know, that's good. But when you're out there and you're dealing with other people, always be respectful and look them in the eyes and give them that acknowledgement. And when you're living in a house with somebody, you got roommates or anything like that, clean up after yourself in the bathroom. Don't leave a bunch of shit all laying around. These things right here are simple. So now I basically showed you how you could use the convict code in the streets. There's way more ground to cover on this, but I'm just giving you a general idea. We might do a part 2 of this. If some of you could think of some other examples that I haven't used, feel free to leave them in the comments section and we'll discuss them in part 2. But this is basically how you can use the convict code in the streets and basically function a hell of a lot more respectfully towards the people around you as well as yourself, because it's how you carry yourself with dignity and respect, and you just be a beast. And that's what it is. See you on the next episode. Peace out.